Hello Orchid friends, welcome back to my channel. Wherever you are, I hope you're having a great day, staying healthy and staying safe. Today we're looking at my Jiaho blueberry. This one is a cross between Samira caerulea and Equestris caerulea. The reason I love this orchid is because of the way it blooms like Equestris, but then it has that beautiful caerulea slash purple bluish color and its fragrance from Samira. And for those of you who don't know, Samira is a cross between Bellina and Violacea. So this orchid has 3 species in its parentage. So I love it dearly. So this is actually one of the 2 orchids in my collection that I will be happy if they produce more keiki, because I would love to have more of these orchids. Otherwise, I would try very hard to keep all other orchids 1 plant per container. I don't want to have more of the same kind of orchid taking up too much space. Okay. So this orchid originally came with 2 spikes. One of the older spikes died back, and then this year this orchid produced another new spike, and then it just bloomed from an old spike and then a new spike. Even in the end, I used the sticks to prop them up a little bit, because otherwise they're kind of growing out and then dangle down, and I just kind of feel it just took up too much space and it's not really good for display anyway. And during my moving of this orchid for watering or for whatever, I was just afraid that I would, somehow damage the flower. So I used the sticks. So this is really just a collection of some of the photos I took while this orchid was developing buds and opening buds. I really think that this orchid is a good one to have in the collection, and in fact I think I only pay maybe $25 for this orchid. It's not very expensive, so I think if you can get a hold of one, you should definitely get one while it's still available. It bloomed just like Equestris, like I said, so I'm hopeful that this orchid will continue to do better. We know orchids do better as they age, but because it has Equestris in it and it has that multi-floral capability, you never know. I mean, on top of multi-floral, it may give me keikis on one of the spikes. Who knows? I'm hoping that will be the case. This orchid is still in its original medium, and that is moss, just sphagnum moss. I was at one point thinking about repotting this orchid, but I didn't get to it, and then before I knew it, it started to produce a new spike and have signs of elongating its original spike, one of the original spikes anyway. So I waited, and I'm glad that I waited, because typically I prefer that I let my orchid kind of stay in its original container, original medium, for at least 30 days after I purchase them, just to kind of see how it does. Because when an orchid comes to a new environment, it has so many things that it needs to adjust to, and I just don't want to create another variables that may potentially set this orchid back. So I waited, and I'm glad I did. And what I usually do is I would put new orchids into a 16-ounce cup container, and that kind of serves as a divider. If this orchid has any kind of pest issues, at least it's somewhat a divider so that it doesn't spread as easily. But of course, I put all my new orchids away, somewhere else, away from my orchid collection. And then after 30 days or so, if everything looks okay, then I will, kind of put them together, but still not immediately, not together. But I waited for too long for this orchid, but thankfully this orchid is still doing okay. But I'm pretty sure after this bloom cycle, I will want to repot this orchid, because I think the moss is looking a little bit on the old side, and I really think that it needs to be replaced. Another way that you can judge whether moss needs to be replaced is if you just take a whole tiny little pinch, and then you kind of, you know, use your 2 fingers to try to, you know, twist it around, smash it, just kind of squeeze it. And then if the moss is still intact without any feeling of the moss falling apart, that is a sign that this moss medium is still okay. But if it's like really mushy and it's falling apart and then has a lot of that powdery feel to it, then it's time to repot. I'm thinking I want to use inorganic media because that's what I have the most. I do have some sphagnum moss left, but I think I want to save those moss for quote-unquote rescue projects if there is any in the future. So this one I think I want to use inorganic media, but whether I want to use semi-hydro or just, you know, traditional setup, I still need to kind of wait and see. And of course, the amount of roots that this orchid would have upon repot would also influence my decision. So we'll see, and I'll definitely keep you posted. So altogether now, I have 2 orchids named Blueberry in my collection. One of them is this one. The other one is called Yang Blueberry. And later in the video, you'll see a couple photos of them side by side, in bloom side by side, because they all have some days of overlap in their blooming cycle. So here, the bonus footage is a collection of side-by-side comparison. And here you have the blueberry with miniatrus. Miniatrus is also one of my favorite orchids in the collection. It's the cerulean type, which I love, and it's super fragrant as well. And here is the Yang Blueberry and the Jiaho Blueberry. Yang Blueberry is much bigger because it probably doesn't have equestrus in it. And Blueberry on the right, you know, the Jiaho Blueberry obviously has equestrus, so that kind of shrinks the flower size a bit. And here's a comparison with the Purple Martin. They have similar color, but the lips are definitely different. Purple Martin has much darker lips. This is all I have for you today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to get more orchid related videos from my channel, please subscribe and turn on the notification. I want to wish you happy growing, and I will talk to you in my next video. Ciao!